Hello, my name's Elizabeth and this is LetiStitch's Flosstube number 10. It is January 26th, 2026. I've been trying to film this for over 2.5 hours. I thought I was done. I went to go edit it. It's gone. So, I'm gonna apologize in advance if I forget anything, because I probably will. And I'm gonna do this again. Probably pretty quickly and trying to keep my frustration visible to a minimum. However, I make no promises. That's the first time I think I've lost a video, so I'm grumpy. But I had a good stitching week this week. I did 5,679 stitches, which I just wasn't expecting, honestly. In my mind, I knew how many stitches it would take for me to get caught up on a lot of my plans, and yet that still didn't translate into how many stitches I did this week. So despite all my frustration in the current moment, I'm very happy with that number. I'm very happy that I had a good week of stitching because I was fully prepared not to. To start with, for my morning stitching, most days is Seasons of the Heart Winter by the Blue Flower, and I did 537 stitches, bringing me to a total of 855 stitches, or 24.83% complete. I am stitching this on 18 count tea-dyed Aida. And a quick note on this is, if you've been watching for a little bit, you may have noticed my white ghosts. And you can see that there's white flowers here just disappear. And I don't mind that. I think that's fun. That from a distance, your eyes have a place to rest, and then when you get close, there's something there. I think that's like a little fun surprise. But I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. So I figured I'd mention, hey, I know that it ghosts. It's not better in person. This is a choice that I'm making. So, yeah. I know when I filmed last week, I was hopeful that I'd get 3 mornings worth of snow day stitching. I got 1. I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. So for my snow day stitching, I'm working on Chickadees and Pinecones, which has been available in a variety of ways. However, I'm doing the kit I inherited, which is from Sunset. And I did 182 stitches, bringing me to a total of 6,280 stitches complete, or 32.96%. And I may get into it in life, but the storm that brought me snow has brought a lot more weather to a lot of people and caused power outages, and we're supposed to have, the United States is supposed to have a really strong Arctic blast come through that's going to make restoring power harder or knock out more power, and I just hope everyone's okay. And I'll talk more about that in life, but we're okay here in central-ish New Mexico. I don't quite know where I live in the grand scheme of things, but I'm gonna call it central New Mexico. As far as regular stitching, I worked on From the Ashes, which is artwork by Abraham Hunter. I'm doing the large version from Artecy on 28 count Monaco. I think that's probably a good one for my comparison. I did 1,557 stitches, bringing me to a total of 2,151 stitches complete, or 0.95%. And my goal for January is to finish this first page, which I'm not even at the bottom at. It may look like I'm at the bottom. I'm not at the bottom. But this wasn't my focus this week because I felt very guilty about how far behind I've gotten on other projects as far as my goal stitching. So I focused on those this week. Probably the one most deserving of that attention is my critical role stitching, which I stitch while watching / listening to Critical Role Campaign 4. I was 2 episodes behind. I watched 2 episodes, which is like 7.5 hours worth of video, worth of stitching. This is Nocturnal Messenger from Luthien Art, stitched on 28 count linen with a drawn thread hem that I did. And I think my before pictures of this, I did 1,541 stitches, bringing me to a total of 26,827 stitches, or 89.42% complete. And I found this top left corner. Another episode comes out today. I'll get into it in plans, but I'm very excited. I've got a sleeping dog here, which is why I'm leaning extra, and my hair is a mess because I've been at this for a while. So we're just continuing because you're here for stitching first and foremost, probably. My other kind of time-related stitch is what I work on while my boyfriend runs the D&D campaign for his friends. And during that, I work on Into Dreamland, which is a kit from LetiStitch. And this week I completed 4 more 10x10 squares. So for the purposes of numbers, I did 400 stitches, bringing me to a total of 12,200 stitches complete, or 22.93%. I'm so happy. I'm so happy with how this is coming along. It's for plans, focus. I gotta get through all my whips. But I have high hopes for February. The next project I have to show you is my gridiron grind stitching, for which I've been following the Steelers during their 2025 season, and I have now also gone back in time to 1949 and worked on week 1. So I did, I don't know how to get this to cooperate with me. That looks good. I did 273 stitches into the Border Collie and 742 stitches into the background, for a total of 1,015 stitches. This is Chocolate Border Collie by Celtic Rose cross stitch on Etsy. It's no longer available. However, they have very many beautiful charts. And this is 28 count, easy count, Lugana 1/1. And I have done 13,609 stitches total, or 21.6%. We have some things to talk about with this though. If you watched last week and are immediately watching this week, which I do sometimes when I'm watching people, you will know I'm 5 stitches short on what I was supposed to do on the Border Collie. I have been color completing, and because I didn't know where 3371, which was the color I was working on for the 2025 season, I don't know where that really ends, because it kind of fades into the background along the bottom and it's everywhere. And I don't think the Border Collie's everywhere. So I decided for a new season, I'll start working on the next most common color in the Border Collie, which is 310. And I had 5 stitches left. I'm not starting a new thread for 5 stitches because that will be at least 100 more stitches. I'll go over by like 100 stitches because of the lengths I use. I have gone over so many times that I figured it's okay if I'm 5 stitches short this week. So that's what happened there. But yeah, getting into 310. So it doesn't look like much is going on. And then the last of like my goal stitching, because with all of that stitching on Chocolate Border Collie, I finished up the background stitching I needed to do for the Sealers wildcard game, which was their last game of their 2025 season, and did all of week 1 of 1949 season. So I'm all caught up on that one. And then my last catch-up piece was my Great British Bake Off stitching, which I am doing the schedule from Jen the Caffeinated Crafter with my own numbers, where I take the value of the contestants' names in Scrabble and multiply it by 5 if they win the technical, 10 if they win Star Baker, and 20 if they get sent home. And then I just add that, and that's what I put into this piece. So this is a crop of Cat Shelf 3 by Randall Spangler. I think maybe 4 pictures this. Charted by Aida. And stitched on 28 count linen. And I did 292 stitches, bringing me to a total of 12,442 stitches, or 73.81% complete. She's so cute. I love her. Yeah. So I'm all caught up, except for WhipGo, on all of my like goals, right? I did do a little bit of bonus stitching. I worked a little bit on Christmas mugs, which is from Colorfully Sarah Shop on Etsy or her own website, stitched on 18 count white Aida. And I did 155 stitches, bringing me to a total of 2,487 stitches complete, or 55.99%. I'm just working on this mug. It's so cute. I know I flew through all of that, but that's all my whips. That's how I got my big number this week. As far as next week goes, we don't have any precipitation in the forecast, so there shouldn't be any more snow day stitching. I will work on Seasons of the Heart Winter until the start of February, where I will pull back out Joyful World February. This is Joyful World January, which is a free stitch along from the Snowflower Diaries. My focus is this week, because I don't really have to catch up on anything, is getting my WhipGo calls for January done, which is a page into From the Ashes and a page into Summer Moon. Also artwork by Abraham Hunter, also the large version from Artecy. So I'll try to get those done. My February WhipGo calls are, once again, a page finish in both of those. And while I have plans for... So my WhipGo calls are, an even number call means trying to get a page finish into Summer Moon, and an odd number call means trying to get a page finish into From the Ashes. At some point, I am prepared for there to be a month where it's only calls on one of those pieces, and I have plans that I'm really excited about for another project to work on. If I get 2 pages called for Summer Moon, I have another project I'm going to work on instead of From the Ashes that month and Summer Moon. And I'm excited, but it won't be February, which is fine. It's fine. In order to keep caught up on everything, a new episode of Critical Role will be available for free today. It'll be episode 12. I keep track of my stitches per hour that I get on that piece, and so I think I'm about 16 hours or so from being done, which means that if we have some 4-hour episodes, I could be done with Nocturnal Messenger in February. So that's one goal for February, right? I also think if we continue to have D&D consistently, which doesn't always happen, we have gone months without having D&D, but if we keep having D&D consistently, I think the first row of pages finishes here on this. And so I have, I think it's 2 or 3 more 10 by 10 blocks in this row, 1 more row of 10 by 10 blocks, and then there's like 2 stitches of the next 10 by 10 row to make up the first row of pages. And so if we do have really good sessions, I might be able to get the first row of pages done on Into Dreamland in February, which is just like, I hope so. We had stagnated the first half of last year to the point where I was prepared for that piece to turn 2, which it will in June, and not even have reached 25% on it. So if I can finish that first row of pages, which presumably means, because I think there's only 4 rows of pages, I think that means I'll be 25% done before June. I'll be very happy. But at February, even better. I didn't write in my notes that I need to talk about what happened in D&D this week because it was embarrassing. Not for me, for them. Other plans are for Gridiron Grind. It is 1949 week 2. I bet you didn't know that. I bet your calendar says it's 2026, but actually it's 1949 week 2 of the football season. And I need to do 140 stitches into the Border Collie and 540 stitches into the background for a total of 680 stitches. And then for bake-off stitching, which I won't pick up until Friday when Jen's video comes out and she says, we're doing Series 5, Episode 5 this week, that's when I'll start it. But if you were curious and stitching along with me, the numbers for Series 5, Episode 5 is 415 stitches. And then the only bonus thing I have planned for this coming week is starting Pokemon Gen 1 Color Wheel, which is a free chart by Lord Libidin. However, you kind of gotta go digging for it. I didn't know it existed until I saw it on Lacey, the Sleepy Stitchers channel. And I knew I wanted to start it. I just had to figure out why. Like, what was my justification for when? And Pokemon turns 30 in February. I'm not going to wait till their birthday because I think their birthday is like the 27th. So I might start it on the 1st, or kind of getting into life a little bit. Kay, my boyfriend, his birthday is Friday, January 30th. So I may just start it then because he is a big Pokemon fan. And while it's not for him, we don't celebrate his birthday by his choice. However, I celebrate it in my heart, and I think it would be fun to have a new start on his birthday. So, kind of getting into more life stuff there. So if you're only here for cross stitch, no worries. Have a good week. I'll see you next Monday. His birthday is this upcoming Friday, as I said. I can't say that out loud while he's here and awake, but he can't hear me right now. So I can say it. And we will have incidental brownies on Friday. I got away with it last year. I'm doing it again. I will just so happen to be inspired on Thursday while we are grocery shopping that I want to make brownies this week. And oh, Friday morning is just the perfect time to make brownies. It's just a normal day. There's nothing special about it. I just wanted to make brownies. Like I said, I got away with it last year. I'm doing it again this year. If I don't get to say the words or presents or anything, this is what I'm doing. You can't stop me from just making incidental brownies. This past week, because that's really it for like this upcoming week, this past week was rough. As I mentioned on Monday, I was getting a migraine because Luna was like here, and it was a bad one. I am no stranger to multi-day migraines. However, usually they respond to something, and there were a couple days this week where it just didn't. There was nothing budging it. It just stuck, and it sucked. So I'm hoping this week I don't have one to make up for the pain of last week. Because it's one of those things where it's like you lay in bed and you do nothing but hurt, and yet you're exhausted when it's done because you were just hurting so much. It sucks. But that's when I do a lot of knitting and some cross stitch. But as far as knitting this week, I'll pop in a picture. I finished the sweater I was working on for Luna, kind of. It doesn't have any ribbing around the neck because I put it on her and I couldn't get it off of her because she loved it so much, and she threw a fit when I tried to take it off. So I had knit her one in white, and it's like cropped and stuff because she normally, we could get Ollie to wear human shirts, and it was helpful for him when he was like, when there was a thunderstorm or something, because he had a lot of anxiety, and she will not wear human shirts. However, apparently if they're made for dogs, she's a big fan. So I couldn't get her out of the white one, and I was like, okay, well, we're gonna need a second one. So I bought her a purple sweater to match her purple leash and her purple collar. I'll have put in a picture of that too. I don't know if I finished that thought. I made the white one because she is an all black dog who vanishes into the night in our backyard when you let her out at night. So I wanted to be able to see her better, which is why I made the white one. And then it quickly became clear she likes them. She wants more. So she got a purple sweater, and it arrived just in time for the storm, which wasn't super bad for us here in central New Mexico. I don't know where I live. I don't know if I said that in this one. I don't know if I live in central New Mexico, but I'm calling it central New Mexico. It's fine. So this is a picture of my front yard Sunday morning. For the most part, we were too warm when there was like precipitation falling for it to snow. We got a lot of rain, and then we got some snow overnight, but very clearly not a lot, and it was just very like crunchy. My parents live about 20 miles as the crow flies, and this is a photo taken at about the same time at their house of the snow they got, which I find it fascinating how much accumulation and precipitation type can differ in a relatively small area. So like they got like fluffy actual snow at their house, but they weren't getting, it wasn't happening at the same time as we were getting rain. It was later. They just got different parts of the storm. That makes sense. And Kay had to work that night. So I'll put in a picture. I don't think I can put up multiple pictures at the same time. I don't think I figured that out yet. So I'll put in a picture here of what the storm looked like at like 3 a.m. when he was driving on an empty road. And he said that it was close to blizzard conditions where he was working. So like for like a context of the geography, if you care, is my house and my parents' house are at approximately the same elevation, with like some more hills and stuff on my side, and then there's a river valley between us. and Kay's work has him usually in that river valley for most of it. And so he saw a lot of snow, which, like, you'd think the higher elevations would be getting more snow than the valley, but no, that's not how it worked this time. So just, I don't know. I think, like I said, I think it's fascinating to see all the different parts of it. And yeah, his car doesn't have like all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but we live on a hill, and then there's also hills to get to our hill, and I wasn't sure how well the roads were going to be treated or anything, so I pressured him into taking my car, because I was like, if we have ice or a lot of snow, the roads can get kind of sketchy, take my car. Which only gets used in the commute. He has a different car he drives at work. So, and he was thankful. He usually complains about having to drive my car, but he did not complain once about driving it, which was nice. But, I mean, it's now afternoon on Monday, and almost all the snow's gone. It's cold out. I think it's just now above freezing, but it's like a cloudless blue sky. It just all disappears. Everything disappears underneath that. However, I know that's not the case for a lot of the US right now. I guess before we get into that, I'll mention what happened in D&D, and then we can talk about weather generally, how it freaks me out a little bit now. I mentioned in a previous video, we have one player character who, he's been playing D&D for a long time. He's atrocious at it, and he doesn't really like know how to read his character sheet and stuff. He killed, we've been running this campaign for over 1.5 years at this point. He killed his first enemy and then died 15 minutes later. Good job. He's also, I don't know if I mentioned it, but a few weeks ago he almost killed, he killed his starting character, and then he was on death's door with his second character at the start of that at the end of that session. So he almost killed 2 different characters in the span of one session. But he killed an enemy this time. Good job, we're proud of him. He'll be a new character next week because he also died. That's just how it goes. So weather generally freaks me out. Like I said, we weren't severely impacted or really impacted substantially at all. But I know a lot of people are or are going to be. I know that there's like mass power outages and stuff. And it's just, I grew up watching the news. I knew weather happened. I did not know about the lasting impacts of weather, right? This is some Phoenix information if you're not familiar with how weather works in a desert, for the most part, at least my experience growing up in it. Stuff doesn't linger. You don't tend to have sustained power outages. Flooding doesn't necessarily have lasting impacts on homes. And you hear about weather happening and you don't really have a concept of the lasting impacts of that weather, because to me, flooding is, for the most part, a flash flood. So water comes down on a mountain, can't soak into the ground, so it comes down the hill really fast. And like an inch can knock you off your feet. 6 inches can move a car. But, 6 hours after the fact, that water's gone. It doesn't hang around. We had one flood in the city while I was growing up in like fall of 2014, where water was like sitting in the roadways. It was gone by the afternoon, in most places because Phoenix is a newer city, so they have intentional drainage areas where neighborhood runoff goes, or like when the streets flood, they pump that water into the highways because the highways are sunken as like a defense against flooding. So water doesn't hang around just sitting in houses and stuff. It goes away. And then the only other weather I was ever concerned with growing up was the dust storms. And it's not because of the wind that accompanies the dust storms. It's because amongst all the fine particulate matter that turns the sky yellow when that wall hits, there's a bacteria, an ancient bacteria called valley fever that makes you chronically ill. And as far as I'm aware, there's no treatment for it. You just get sick if you happen to be unfortunate enough to breathe that in. So cover your face. Don't go outside if you happen to be in a haboob, is what I grew up calling them, a dust storm. But otherwise, like, nothing has lasting impacts. Kay is not from the desert. Kay is from Appalachia. I don't know how to say it. He doesn't watch this, so he can't yell at me. And while, as far as I'm aware, where he grew up wasn't impacted in this storm, last January, where he grew up, some of his friends were impacted by a flood, which was followed by a freeze. And the flood was like this historic flood that took out a ton of bridges, and then the freeze made it impossible to like get power turned back on and stuff. And like now having a concept of what these winter storms mean long term, and like why restoring power is hard and all of these things, it's terrifying. How do people live like this? But I also think it's just like a normal part of life probably, and people are like, everyone knows that like flooding, water sitting in your house means you got to take out the drywall up to a certain height. That's not, I didn't know that was a thing. That's a thing that happens. That's terrifying. I didn't know you could just do that. So I hope everyone's okay, and I hope there's no lasting damage. Like I hope everyone's okay. I hope there's no lasting damage to your house. If there is, I hope that you don't have to fight insurance too hard to get it covered. It's America. Insurance companies are what they are. And I hope life gets back to normal fairly soon for you. If that's what you want. Being snowed in sounds fun. I've yet to experience it though. So, yeah. With all that being said, I will see you guys next Monday. I hope you have a great week. I hope everything's okay. I don't even know what's going on in the weather outside of the US at this point. I used to keep a much better eye on it, and I don't anymore. And I do feel slightly bad about it, but I can't. I got limits on what knowledge I can carry on a day-to-day basis. And I don't really have room for that. So I will see you guys next Monday. I hope you have a good end to January and a good start to February. I think I see you February 2nd. That sounds right. Bye.